I'm going to do just a quick vid on this. So my seal coat is just about done. It can be touched. Still just a little bit soft. But also little imperfections have worked its way out. Of course I say that. I still get some little dippity-doos. Again, this is a seal coat, so later this week I will sand it down with about 240 grit, maybe. But anyway, just thought I would show this off. This is just some gratuitous wood stuff, some very pretty stuff. You got these beautiful bark inclusions and a little hole, and so that's really, really nice. Filled the holes, the cracks up, other than that one, filled the cracks up with lime green colored epoxy that actually fades away to some pretty sky blue. You can actually see the blue in that little section pretty well right there too, and then back up into the green. And that's not the pretty part, though. That really isn't. Pretty part is the wood. Stellar. Very gorgeous piece of walnut. I love this little. The phone doesn't do it justice, but there's literally a little green spot. You kind of caught it right there. If I move quicker, you can see it. There's a little green spot right there in the sapwood area, and then goes up. You got nearly a white line that goes up along here, separating out the sapwood that goes in over there, which is really pretty. And you have this amazing curl and figure, but you also have this really interesting just variations of this shadow and this light and the bleaching. Look at that. That is not a tool that did that. That is the wood did that. Over here, look at that. That is grain diving down, coming up, making that line right there. That is not any special sort of stain or anything. That is literally just tension. This side of this branch that took off and went towards the ceiling, so you can see the fan's reflection right there. So you gotta imagine this branch came off, this direction. The tension on that branch, it's just amazing. The curl right through here is just some of the most dramatic curl I think I've ever seen on a single piece of wood. Really is amazing, outstanding. It's hard to pick up because there's the thing there, but it is just ridiculously gorgeous. Just really pretty. Hopefully this just blows my son's and my daughter-in-law's mind when I give it to them. I hope so. I kind of want it to. Very pretty. All the speckling, all the different colors, and it's just amazing. Just a beautiful piece of wood. It just has got so much character to it. It's really outstanding. So anyway, little gratuitous wood watching. So we got the flood pour done. I did 8 ounces. Okay, I think I might have said that in a different video. There are a few little dust motes on here. Not too bad though. So what I'm going to do now is go about an hour and a half before I pull this tape off. So one of the things I learned when I first did the butterfly table, and this is an important piece of information for anybody doing this the first time, is that if you leave the edges up to your molds, whether that's tape or some other mold. This is a fluid, and it will creep up the edges, meaning it will give you edges that are sharp. So you can probably see that somewhat in here, how the epoxy crawled up the edge a little bit. So the first time I did the butterfly table pour, which was our first time of doing a pour, I left the tape on. Left it on for a couple days just to let everything cure. Came back, had a horrible time pulling off the tape because the tape will adheres to the epoxy if you leave it on for a long time. The other piece to that is that I had, when I finally got it off, I had this big old sharp edge everywhere, which, you know, is not a good idea for a coffee table. So I had to come up with a way to fix that. So essentially I didn't want to ruin the top, because really once the pour's done, you can't get this back. You have to sand it down and re-pour. You can't get the glass look back in a fixed state. So essentially I had to go through the edges very carefully, chisel them down, the sharp edges, and then I took the router around, routed the edges on that coffee table over there to put a half round, quarter round I guess I should say. So I put a quarter round on it, rounded it all down, and then hit it with some wipe-on poly very carefully just on the edges, and was able to get it to merge. But it was a good learning lesson for me. About 2 weeks after I did that, and I must have watched a billion different flood pour videos, I was watching an arts and crafts video for I don't know why. It was just saw one and thought, well, that looks interesting. Let me see what they're doing. And the lady on the arts and crafts video, they were actually putting some decorations on a board, you know, live, joy, whatever, love, stuff. Anyway, they were putting some decorations on the board, and she literally said, hey, you know, when you tape all this up, but, you know, once the epoxy sets up to a thick state, and that usually takes about 2 hours or so, 2 to 3 hours, pull that tape off, and it'll just roll itself over the edge and give you a nice round edge, and you don't have to worry about fighting tape. So that was a piece of information I've used a couple times on other pours, so hopefully I can pass that on to you guys, somebody, somewhere. Anyway, kind of a vital piece of information, but just be aware of that, right? It's just fluid dynamics. It will crawl up the edge. That's what it does. We're in a spinning world, in a spinning universe, and you know, things happen the way they do. So there you go. Anyway, I do have some dust motes in this I'm not real thrilled with. I don't really have any bubbles, so I'm glad about that. And might have just a couple there, but I don't know, it might be too late to hit them. I'm getting a little bit of shimmer when I hit that. So anyway, I kind of did that's what the seal coat's for. Seal coat's to chase the bubbles. So basically you do the flood coat, you spread it all out with your little spreader. This time I used my air gun. So I have a air gun, Harbor Freight. You can get one of these. It goes all the way up to 1160 degrees. That is what I run it on when I'm doing a flood pour, so that this gets nice and warm and starts flowing like a fluid. Because again, when you put it on here, it's the consistency of very old honey or molasses or whatever. So even though it says it will, you know, self-even, it won't. Its own elasticity will hold it. So that's why you got to spread it. So you got to get a little spreader with teeth. Spread it all the way around. Now, I will say on the flood pour, you got to watch because you got a lot more on here, right? So I did the seal coat I did with 4 ounces. I doubled this, went to 8 ounces for the flood coat. It's not that big of a table, but did 8 ounces on it. However, when you're moving it around with the spatula, you know, it's a lot more to move around. So you just want to make sure it's all even everywhere. I didn't really video any of it just because you have to be really busy. But Anyway, so yeah. So I just made sure it was to the edges. So that's the first thing when you pour it. Work your way. Make sure you get all your edges covered, because that's kind of where you get gaps when you're trying to focus on the middle. You don't pay attention to edges. So I made sure that I smushed a bunch up on the edges, and then made sure the rest of it was all spread evenly. Hit it with the high temp air gun, and just let it sit on there, not in one spot. Move it around a lot because you don't want to cook it. But let it sit on there until it, got smooth, liquefied, and evened out. Now again, I'm not in a clean room, so the good part would be is if you could put a board or something over the top of it, or I see a lot of people doing boxes. I don't have a big enough box, so my son's just going to have to live with the dust motes to keep stuff out of it. But anyway, figured I would show you that. It's going to be very, very, very pretty. When it's done, I've got about another hour and a half before the tape comes off, and then at that point I'll just let it, like I said, I'll just take the tape off and let it roll. So I am going to go downstairs and relax a little bit. I'm not feeling very good, and but anyway, it's very pretty. Beautiful piece of wood. So, yep.